right, today is section 1.3, solving linear equations. Our goals for today is I can solve linear equations and I can use linear equations to solve real life problems. The notes are pretty basic. First, an equation is a statement in which two expressions are equal. Remember, equations have equal signs, expressions do not. On to the first problem. Number one, I'm going to try and do most of these problems without using a calculator so that way you can see the steps and how they go. So for this first step, anytime I have a problem and it's a two-step equation, I always want to add or subtract first. So in these two-step equations, I want to first add or subtract. So in this case, I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. This will give me 3 over 7. X is equal to 6. I'm then going to multiply by the reciprocal, which is 7 over 3, and do that to both. So I know that over here they're going to cancel out, so I'll have x equals 3 goes into 6 2 times. 2 times 7 is 14. So 14 is my answer for that. Now, if you did it a different way, that is fine. As long as you get the right answer, that's all we care about. Because there is another way that you could do this problem, but this is just one method that you can do. All right. So my first step on this two-step was to add or subtract. My second step was to multiply or divide. So let's look at the second one. So in the first one, I'm going to subtract 8. I get 2 over 9. X is equal to 8. I then want to multiply by the reciprocal. And I'm going to do that to both sides. And we can write 8 as 8 over 1. So 2 cancels, 9 cancels on the left side. So I have x equals 2 goes into 8 4 times. And 4 times 9 is 36. You could have also said 8 times 9 is 72. 72 divided by 2 is 36. However you want to do it. Go ahead and try the U practices on your own, and if you'd like to see the answers, ask me, and I will tell you if it's right or if it's wrong. The next type of equation is to solve an equation with a variable on both sides. Now, what we want to do is we want to get all the variables on one side. I like to get them on the left side, the variables, and I like to get the numbers on the right side. So I'm going to subtract 7n from both sides, and a lot of people, when they do these problems, because they get confused, we'll draw the line. This way you know where the left side is and where the right side is. So I will now have negative 2n plus 11 equals negative 9. Now to get that number on the other side, I'm going to subtract 11. So I'll have negative 2n equals negative 20. And then I'm going to divide by negative 2 so that n equals 10. Of course, if we want to check to make sure that we did it correctly, we can always plug it back into our original problem and make sure that it works for the left and right hand side. So 5 times 10 is 50, plus 11 is 61. 7 times 10 is 70, minus 9 is 61. Since 61 is equal to 61, you know that you're good to go. Let's check out letter B. So I'm going to draw my line because that seems to help. I'm going to get all my n's on one side. I'm going to subtract 4n from both sides. That gives me 8n minus 3 equals 21. I'm going to then add 3 to both sides. And I get 8n equals 24. Divide by 8. And n is equal to 3. All right, example number 3. Use the distributive property. To do this distributive property, remember we want to take whatever's on the outside of the parentheses and multiply by whatever's inside the parentheses. So 4 times 3x will give us 12x. 4 times negative 5 gives us negative 20. On the right side, I'm going to take negative 2 times negative x, which will give me 2x. Negative 2 times 8 will give me negative 16. I want to combine like terms. Before I start getting things on separate sides, I want to combine like terms. So on the right-hand side, you'll notice that there's a 2x and a 6x. I want to combine those first before I do anything. So I have negative 4x minus 16. So we want to simplify, and then we want to get the variables on one side and the numbers on the other side. So I'm going to get my variables on the left side by adding 4x. This gives me 12x minus 20 equals negative 16. I'm going to add 20 to both sides, and I get 12x equals 4. We're then going to divide both sides by 12, so that x is equal to 4 over 12, but we want to reduce this because 4 goes into both. This will be 1 over 3. Oops, sorry. On letter B, we want to do also the distributive property. So 5 times x is 5x. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. Negative 4 times 2x is negative 8x. Negative 4 times 7 is negative 28. I want to get the x's on one side, the numbers on the other side, so I'm going to add 8x. This will give me 13x minus 10 is equal to negative 28. I'm going to add 10 to both sides, and I get 13x equals negative 18. And lastly, divide by 13 so that x is equal to negative 18 over 13. All right, another type of problem is one with fractions. Nobody likes fractions, so let's get rid of the fractions. Here's what I like to do whenever I have a problem with fractions. I like to find the greatest common or the lowest common multiple between 3, 4, and 6. Now, the lowest common multiple is going to be 12 because 3 goes into it, 4 goes into it, and 6 goes into it. So I'm going to multiply the entire problem by 12 so that I don't have any fractions. So 1/3 of 12 is 4. 1/4 of 12 is 3. 12 times x is 12x. And 1/6 of 12 is 2. Now, just like a normal problem like we've been doing, I'm going to subtract this 12x from both sides. Give me negative 8x plus 3. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. Get negative 8x equals negative 5. Divide by negative 8. And I'm going to simplify. I know negative divided by negative is a positive, so I have x equals 5 over 8. All right, the last type of problem is a word problem. These types of problems can be challenging, but we're going to try and break it down. So a real estate broker's base salary is $18,000. She earns 4% commission on total sales. How, with an extra zero or a big O right there, just because we want to know how much must you make in order to make $55,000 total. So what we're going to do is we know she's going to be earning an amount 2 places. All right, so her income plus the commission. So we want to figure out the income or her salary plus her commission. So her total that she made was $55,000. The salary that she made was $18,000. Her commission is 4%. So we write 4% as a decimal as 0.04. And then we multiply by how much she must make in sales because she's going to get 0.04 of that percent. And we want to figure out how much she has to sell in order to get that 55. So now it's just a 2-step equation. I'm going to subtract 18,000 from both sides. And when I do this, I'm going to figure out what this is. So this will be 7, and this will be a 37,000. And then I have 0.04x. Now to get x by itself, we have to divide both sides by 0.04. And in my calculator, I get 925,000. Put in my commas so that way it's easier to read. So she has to make a total sales of 925,000 just for her to make $55,000. So that is the notes.